So, in this podcast, we will talk about block mining activities. Especially, this is an interesting issue, I think, for the public out there, especially those who are concerned about environmental effects, because it is said that blockchain, like mining activities, consume lots of energy and electricity. Um, so it will be interesting to know that in blockchain transactions and activities, like what is it about mining that is so energy intensive? Yeah. So okay, with the disclaimer, we won't touch upon the environmental issues because we're not environmental experts. But I think this will be interesting for the public, especially those who are concerned about the energy consumed by these mining activities to get a picture, an insight into what mining activities actually entail. And because some of the definitions which are available out there can be really confusing for people, like for instance, like the miners, they have to solve mathematical problems and they have to compete each other in order to mine a block, and yeah, and so on and so forth. So I think that will be our topic for today. My first question for you is like, yeah, what is mining actually? Sorry to repeat the same question again, but yeah, can you explain to people who might not know about it?
Absolutely. So, well, the mining process is something that doesn't involve every kind of blockchain. It involves only blockchain that use the proof of work as mechanics to protect the blockchain. The most famous is Bitcoin. So this is important to know that all the issue related to electricity consumption and high cost are only related to proof of work blockchain, such as Bitcoin, Ethereum, and so on. There are other blockchains that use different systems that don't involve the mining process. So in practical terms, what is mining? Mining is a term that has been put together because it reminds the idea of going in a cave mining until you find a piece of gold, right? It's a very random thing. Somebody lucky can hit twice and find a piece of gold. Another person need to hit 1,000 times before find the piece of gold, right? In the process of creating a new block for the blockchain, so taking the transaction they're waiting to be put inside the block, pack them together and propose to the blockchain the new block, the proof of work blockchain, like Bitcoin, require the production of a specific number that is called hash. So it is the result of a mathematical operation that need to have a particular set of specific to match the required please result. So pretty much when there is a new block that is proposed to the blockchain, then the person that managed to find this block earn some new cryptocurrency. In case of Bitcoin, it started with 50 and it go halving, time to time, but it's still quite a lot of money. So there is a big competition to be the first in finding this mathematical result. This mathematical result is particular because it's a one-directional result. So it cannot be extracted by reversing the operation, and is made by taking all the transactions that one person wants to include in a block, add some metadata such as which is the address where to pay the transactions, so will be the address of the person trying to create the block, and then adding a little bit of a dirt, some useless potentially information that adds up so that the mathematical result is the one that is being required. So the mathematical result needs to start with many zeros. So one takes the transaction, put the metadata, try, and the result doesn't have zero at the beginning. So you start putting a counter with the number 0 and look at the result. Then 1, look at the result. 2, look at the result. That is like hitting with the scalpel in order to search the piece of gold. That's why mining, right? And then you need to try thousands or hundreds of thousands or millions times until you find the mathematical result that start with many zeros. And then he has the authority to propose it to the rest of the peer-to-peer network, which can validate very fast if the mathematical result is correct or not. And then if it's correct, everybody's going to accept this as the next block. And this person is granted the Coinbase. The Coinbase is not the company that make the exchange, but means the new coin created every block. And because this competition is very strong, and the blockchain such as Bitcoin has a rhythm that need to be respected. So one new block every 10 minutes, okay? When somebody becomes too powerful and manage to find the result very fast, then the algorithm with an average of every 2 weeks adjusts to require even more zeros at the beginning, making the calculation even more complex, meaning more attempts are needed to be finding the result. And this makes it more expensive. So people start putting many computers with the special hardware devices called ASICs or GPUs in other case, in parallel, splitting the problem by many computers. So if a single computer should try 1 million times, two computers can try 500,000 times each, and 4 computers 250,000 times, 10 computers 1/10, and so on and so forth. So more computers in parallel try to solve the exact same problem, meaning the same exact block for the same person that is going to receive the reward. Faster they go. Faster they go, more the algorithm require complex calculations, so people start adding more computer, consuming more electricity, until they borderline the revenue with the cost. When they borderline the revenue with the cost, they're going to start moving to other blockchain, because the same mathematical operation can be done in different blockchains. So people can decide, I calculate for this, I calculate for that blockchain.
Yeah, so I think why the process of maintaining the record or the ledger on the blockchain is somehow more complicated than the centralized system. Is it because of the decentralized nature, which involves lots of people in the peer-to-peer network? So yeah, with the absence of a central authority, it's going to take more time in order to get these transactions together. Is that the case?
But the idea is this. All the nodes in a peer-to-peer network need to make the same decision in front of an option. So let's say at a certain point, 2 different accounts propose 2 different blocks. If some node choose one block, some other node choose another, it's going to be a disaster, because the blockchain fork, there are 2 blockchains at this point, and then 4 and 8 and forever, right? So what is very important is that we have a system for which all the nodes in the peer-to-peer network will do the same choice. Same choice in this case is going to get the block that's been proposed the fastest and with more zeros. Okay, so I have a guarantee, because all the nodes are running the same software, that when 2 blocks are presented, 3, 4, 5 blocks as alternative, they're all going to choose the same if all they receive the full set of blocks. These give the consensus mechanics. If I am able to produce the last 20 blocks with a better mathematical result of the last 10, and I can produce up to catch up to the current state, I can game all the node to choose my blockchain, my last chunk of blockchain, compared to the real one. And this is an attack done to do double spending, because the transaction included in a block in my rebuilt alternative blockchain, which looks better to the nodes compared to the previous one, some transactions that are the one that I used to pay some people are not there anymore. So I still have my balance after they think I already paid them. And this is a classic attack, so I can spend the money twice, which has been done in minor proof-of-work blockchain like Ethereum Classic or many other even minor blockchain, making people, double their money very fast. And this is what should never happen. So I think the original idea of Satoshi Nakamoto, the person on the team, was that one computer had one calculation. They didn't think that people may end up splitting the problem among multiple computers. If that was the case, the distribution would be really equal. There would not be somebody that collect all the Coinbase and the rest of the network never make any money. But the truth is that only few people has a warehouse full of computers so to always win the race, let's say, or many people pull together to split the problem among them, and splitting also the revenue among them, believing the people that is unique, one computer, one vote, the original idea of Satoshi Nakamoto, is completely dead. There is actually an actual email from Satoshi Nakamoto, one of the last, that he actually admit, I never thought about pool. I never thought that people would pull together in order to produce a better, a faster result, but end up centralizing the blockchain at this way.
Okay, I begin to see what you mean. So, correct me if I'm wrong, but then what I get from your explanation is that in order to gain control over the network or to win the competition, so to speak, like some individuals might run several computers simultaneously so that they can have like more nodes in the network. Is that what happens, or?
No, it's no more nodes in a network. That's unfortunately is completely different, because if every computer that does calculation has to be a node, that would be fantastic. Unfortunately, the nodes are just there to verify, validate that the block proposed is correct, that the transaction inside the block are authorized to spend the money, that, the calculation are computed, they represent a single account. It can even not be a node if you want, because at the end of the day, you just need to produce. It's gonna be pretty much a node because it's easier in terms of configuration. But at the point is just finding the mathematical results. So all those computers are not nodes. I wish all those computers were nodes, each one with the same equal authority of all the others. Those are just calculators put there to give a single node, if you want, or a single account, a result in order to collect the revenue. That's it.
Okay. And what's the difference between the information and data recording in the blockchain compared to the centralized system?
A centralized system is a single computer, so a single point of truth or a single point of failure as well, right? So there is the need to trust the person handling the computer with the data that are in the computer. There is not much, things can be deleted. Maybe new data cannot be created if they're combined with cryptographic signature, even if it's centralized, but data can be deleted, data can be removed with no problem. And the problem is the censorship, right? So in a centralized system, I want to post, let's say I want to spend some of my Bitcoin. If the manager of the computer decide that I will never be able to spend them, every time I try to post my transaction, they just ignore it and never process it. The problem with the current system, the current status of Bitcoin, is that because there is only 12 accounts that produce new blocks, if these 12 people receive a note, like a memo from some government or between them, to say never authorize a transaction from this account, never include in a block a transaction from this or this account, then automatically when this or that account try to spend their Bitcoin, they will never be able to spend them, simply because the transaction never make it inside a node. Once you decentralize and the new block are really created randomly between any account in the full peer-to-peer network, then censorship is quite impossible, because it means it's a total agreement of all the node owner, which will be, anyway, a democratic way to say no. So even if that happen, means that really everybody refused to accept the transaction. It comes to mind when the United States wanted to sanction Russia. They bullied, or let's say they lobbied, in a better word, SWIFT, which is the banking system, the banking messaging system, to disconnect Russia bank from their network. So at this point, Russia, when they wanted to have international money transfer, they could not connect to SWIFT anymore. If SWIFT was in a blockchain rather than in a centralized manner, it would be up to each country server to say, okay, I refuse to accept transaction to Russia. So when it's their turn to create a block, they can block them. But the other country, they accept. When they make their block, they're going to include them. So there can be a partial slowdown unless all the node, all the country in the potential decentralized SWIFT system would be in agreement to block a Russian transaction, and at the point, only if Russian produce a block on his own, gonna be able to add their own transaction. That's it.
Yeah, and that's the weakness of the centralized system, right? And then, like, if we look at several countries, it's also their method of making the lives of dissidents more difficult. Like by blocking their bank accounts, etc. Yeah, so
Well, just thinking, they deleted my YouTube channel, my personal YouTube channel, where I was posting some simple review of services that don't work. There were 17 subscribers only. Wasn't video never had more than 10,000 views. Very small thing. Yet, no explanation, no warning, and YouTube permanently deleted and removed my account. The most incredible thing, there is a premium account for which, after deleting it and making for me impossible to use premium service, they charge my credit card for 1 more month of premium service that I cannot use. So this is the downside of a centralized system, which means that they decide my life and my death in terms of presence in their platform. In the decentralized YouTube clones like DTube or AIOZ Tube, if the interface blocks the view from my accounts, I can just create another interface connecting to the same blockchain, and then I can show the videos that are there. So there is nobody can control the content. They can control the interface with the user, but as soon as somebody misbehaves, somebody else creates something better. As simple as that.
yeah, and unfortunately, yeah, regarding your YouTube account, I just heard about it on Monday, but you don't even know like who reported your account.
I don't
like,
know
no
which
information.
which is the content that violated their things. They say that I did spam and scams, but I never did any spam and scam. Honestly, I was complaining about an internet service provider being super slow and cheating on their speed test, because in the speed test they show super fast, but in the reality the speed was super slow. And which by their own admission as well, because they said that they had the issue in the network. So other time I was some product that didn't work properly, or the customer care, also in positive way. So there was nothing particular. I wasn't promoting. I wasn't talking about cryptocurrencies. I wasn't talking about political things. I just annoyed some large company, and YouTube preferred to support them, because maybe they say, hey, we block YouTube to all our users if you don't remove this content. Go wonder what blackmailing has gone on there. But consider this, that in a decentralized world, all this wouldn't be possible. In fact, my video on d.tube are still there.
So in the decentralized system, and also the data and information stored there cannot be deleted, right? It's immutable, meaning that people can add new information to it, but then they cannot erase information in data. Is that
That's not correct.
right? Like,
I would say that's not correct. Means that any node can keep an audit of all the transactions that happen in history. But based on how a blockchain is programmed, past transaction can be deleted. It doesn't really matter. It's the current state of things that is there. If I program a blockchain with a transaction type that says delete my data, you can delete it. So cannot be done without the correct rule, which is programming the blockchain. But that's, blockchain is a system that can be coded to do whatever people want, which include also deleting information that can be done in many ways, by voting, by whatever. So.
Yeah. And also, like, speaking of censorship, it's also possible to censor some contents or block some people in the blockchain. So it's not that it can happen, right? But it can happen, but not arbitrarily.
So pretty much there are blockchain that are permissionless and public. There are blockchain that are permissioned and public. There are blockchain with particular rules where account need to be elected to be able to do something or not. And again, it depends how it's coded, how it's programmed. So everything is possible. The classic blockchain, like Bitcoin, is open. So nobody can stop you from creating a Bitcoin account. The bank can decide you're not fit enough to have a bank account at the bank, but nobody is there to stop you to create a Bitcoin wallet to run a Bitcoin node, and so on and so forth. So is the real democratic system, which is the beauty of it all, right? So the real open blockchain is open in full. There is it doesn't judge where you're from, which is your political view, which is your religion. Anybody can open and interact with others following the rule of the blockchain.
Yeah, and then that's the beauty of the decentralized system. Then, like to go back to where we left about the difference between information and data storing in the centralized and decentralized system. Yeah, centralized, as its name suggests, is one single server. But
Or the
actually, it's
data center.
curious, Yeah, but it's curious. Still on the question of energy consumption and electricity. How many computers usually there are? Like in a peer-to-peer network and to run a decentralized system.
It depends on the participation of the public, right? So usually you go on 10,000 server, 100,000 or 50, depends on the blockchain, a few hundred. Is really open the participation. Obviously, the more the merrier, because more nodes there are, stronger the blockchain is. And even if there is 1,000, but they're all controlled by the same person, what's the point, right? They need to be many in the hand of very completely different people that don't know each other, ideally, and then you have a very strong system.
And I want to ask regarding the miners, what does it take for a person to be a miner? I mean, what skills should they possess?
But first of all, I should say that there are a lot of online scams, places where people say put your money to do mining, etc., etc. They do the classic Ponzi scheme where they use the money of the previous person to pay the revenue, and they are really just until they explode, they disappear. On the practical term, mining means to purchase some hardware device, but unless people decide to participate in a pool with other people, is useless to try to do mining on your own unless you have a few $1 million to invest in a warehouse, in electricity bills. That's why, in my opinion, as soon as people understand that there are alternatives, consensus mechanics, that are safe as much, if not even more, than proof of work. It's like having the choice of two identical cars, but one consumes 20 liters of gasoline per kilometer. The other does 100 kilometers with 1 liter, and the performance and everything are identical. Why would somebody insist to use the one that burns so much gasoline for no reason, right? It is an obvious choice to go for the better performing car, given that the level of security and the specification are identical, if not better, or satisfy what people needs, right?
And then how many hours of that a miner spends a day in order to mine a block or to solve this mathematical
I
problem?
mean, the person themselves, they don't do much. They receive a notification if they manage to, win or
Yeah.
receive income. The machines are 24/7. They're trying because there is a new block every 10 minutes. So the race start again every 10 minutes in average. So every 10 minutes, throw away the work done the past 10 minutes. If it didn't wasn't good enough, start with a new process of work for another 10 minutes. It wins, good. It doesn't win, too bad, but all the work done is thrown away. That's why it's a big pity. There is a lot, it's not only expensive in terms of electricity, but it's a huge waste, because it's not that all the calculation were helping to decode the genome sequence or do space calculation for constellation stars or the life on Mars or whatever, or medical research of sort. Is really useless calculation if not to protect the blockchain. There are no, every business has the side the side revenue. For example, company that produce things in wood, they have all the wood left over. They can compress and make pallets for the oven or bricks that burn eternally. So there is a side business, a side possibility done with the waste. Almost every business has this, right? But mining for Bitcoin is really thrown away. I wish that the same process of mining had a useful outcome beside securing the blockchain. They can be good for medical research or something else. That would be an intelligent things to do, right? Who can show better progress in this calculation to understand such and such, then this will be at least justifying all the expenses that are made, because protecting the blockchain honestly can be done, in my opinion, much better with a much more effective system than proof of work, as in fact many other blockchain are there doing this.
Okay, so it's specific to Bitcoins, yeah, like this intensive energy consumption, and also partly due to the financial boons which
No,
the miners can get.
it's for all the proof of work blockchain, not only Bitcoin. Can be Bitcoin, can be Ethereum, can be many others. And the minor one risking to be attacked because the proof of work consensus is flawed. Is flawed by the fact that anybody can come overnight, over minute, I would say, with a much more powerful hashing power is called, amount of calculation done per second, and rewrite a last chunk of a blockchain. It's going to be close to impossible to do it with Bitcoin just because it's the major one. But as soon as somebody, let's say the trend goes that everybody abandon Bitcoin for something else, or somebody build a machine that can calculate much faster. So also Bitcoin is a risk. That's why Bitcoin is a brand. The engine running Bitcoin should be upgraded as soon as there is a valid alternative, in my opinion.
Because I heard also from a friend of mine who also work in a blockchain company, like she said, not all these platforms or solutions are made equal in terms of energy consumption, meaning that there are some solutions or cryptocurrencies which consume less electricity. Yeah, depending on how they're built, I guess. Yeah. And what about DecBC? Can you tell us about the energy consumption or the activities involved in its mining?
So DecBC develop an advanced consensus mechanics for which the security is based in cryptography without trial and error processes. So there is a logic history to follow with operation that can be done with a very simple computer. So a node for DecBC can run on a very weak computer like an Arduino or Raspberry Pi with no problem. And the security is put together with some additional rules in the consensus mechanic for how node can participate to the decision making, let's say, of the blockchain. So in this way, it remains fully open. So meaning there is no discrimination on who can run nodes or from where, how, etc., etc. But it remains a solid system that is mathematically more secure, even for a minor blockchain. That's why it's developed as a system that is not only for cryptocurrency, but can even run with no cryptocurrency, another system to avoid flooding of transaction in the blockchain for private network or private solution or consortiums or other places. So it is one step ahead technologically. It doesn't have a strong brand like Bitcoin, but it would be amazing if, for example, if Bitcoin would change the engine underneath it, remaining Bitcoin, people use the same wallet, the same modality of transaction, but what keep it running, it will be a much stronger technology without the need of all this electricity consumption, making everybody happy, in my opinion, except people selling those technology for doing mining that will be bankrupt at a certain point.
Yeah, I think as the decentralized system gets better, I think, and it will result in less trial and error in its operations, and I think it will also consume less electricity. As now the decentralized technology is also still evolving to become better. Yeah, can I put it that way? Yeah.
Yes. We are at the infancy of this phase in the information age, right? We start digitizing things, so things that were analog become digital. We start transferring this digital information as a numeric things through the phone lines, making then internet. We start adopting this for many different uses, and now we go to the point where we can create singularity in this digital world where copy and paste were the most simple thing in the world, right? Take an MP3, copy, give it to 10 friends, everybody has the MP3. You cannot copy a Bitcoin and give it to 10 friends because the Bitcoin has to remain one. Once you give it to somebody else, you don't have it anymore. And in a digital world, this is super powerful things. You can create titles, documents that are unique. If you cannot make a copy, if you copy an identical, it's going to have a different identification number, so it's going to be a different document. If you have a Word file, even a PDF, you can make an identical copy of the same PDF and give them to different stories, while in a blockchain, that document is always the one, and there are no copies to be made. So you can look at it, add the information, but you cannot replicate it with an identical number, because the blockchain gives the opportunity to create unique things. That's why the old NFT craze started, because you can create a unique piece of art, of literature, or whatever that is in a non-fungible token that can be sold and is unique. So once somebody owns it, the other person doesn't have it. And this is the beauty of the blockchain.
Yeah, I think that's also the idea of non-fungibility, right? Like, for instance, even if like we both have paintings in our houses, but we cannot just switch them, like in a barter, because like each will have different valuations and results. And I think it will also be good for the content creative workers, so that to prevent people from ripping off their creations. Not that blockchain can put an end to piracy in
But
and of
it
itself,
can
but
make it better how it is today. So that's what I think, one step ahead, if you want.
and this might sound like a silly question, but I'm also wondering, like if we watch news items on blockchain, they usually uh, have pictures of warehouses with lots of CPUs. Like, what are inside these warehouses, and why so many CPUs and equipment?
Exactly, to split the problem among many computers. So if one single computer need 1 million cycle to find the best result, two computer do the work in 500,000 cycle. 1 million computer do the work in one cycle. So people win the race in the way. More computer you can split the problem between, faster you go. But then the algorithm is gonna adjust, requiring 1 million computer to do 1 million cycle. So you need to then keep expanding forever. That's why is an insane push by greed, but is an insane chase, right?
Yeah. Now I understand, because like it's automated, right? So like once the miner have put uh, all the necessary data or information, then the machines will take care of itself,
Pretty
of
much.
themselves. I mean, of the transactions. Okay. Okay, and then the more computers they have, like the more likely that they can solve.
That's correct.
Yeah. Okay, but the good news is it's gonna get better, hopefully in the future. Apart from the proof of work consensus blockchains.
Yeah, hopefully the adoption of better consensus mechanics are going to slowly leave if you think the engine of a charcoal for a train is now in the museum, right? But at the time, people may have thought that the only way to run a train was with charcoal, and train that want to run with diesel fuel were no good because they had millions of problems, and eventually the train became electric. So it's an evolution that needs to go there.
And let us discuss a little bit about proof of participation, right? Like, which is used by DecBC as well. How is a proof of participation in terms of energy consumption and
But
like its processes?
there is no energy consumption. There is a significant, meaning that it's like keeping a computer on without any particular thing. So, well, the Raspberry Pi can run on a solar panel with a small battery and keep going. That's not the problem, because the mathematical operations done are very basic, and there is no trial and error to find the results. The security is given by requiring. The big problem with Bitcoin is that 10 accounts create all the blocks for the Bitcoin blockchain, which means that if there is 1,000 nodes with 1,000 accounts, this is people that is making no money and is running nodes just on a voluntary basis, or because they need it for some service they're doing online. But the network should be rewarded for running properly. Any peer-to-peer service should reward the peers. Is it a video chat? Is it the decentralized storage? It is a new phone communication system? Whatever it is, if there are 1,000 nodes that make this possible, every money spent for user to use this service should be split among the 1,000 nodes that are making this possible. That's where proof of participation is. How do you measure the participation of the node? Somebody goes offline, somebody doesn't do their job when it's needed, somebody's pretending to have a node but it's not a real node. How do you measure this in order to split among all the participants the revenue generated by the peer-to-peer network based on their participation? Somebody participate a lot, get more. Somebody participate a little. You participate very little, get kicked out even, So when all the nodes participate at the fullest, they hit a ceiling, and all the revenue made by the peer-to-peer network is distributed among all the nodes. If new nodes want to join the club, they need to queue, because new members are admitted slowly, just to avoid that somebody overnight to take over the full network. And this is one layer of security as well, because to perform an attack, there is a requirement of 80-90% of control of the network. And to achieve this is going to require years of work for an attacker, given there is the only attacker, because as soon as there are two attackers, they eliminate each other automatically, because they will never reach the level that they need to reach.
Yeah, and then when you say that newcomers will have to be on queue before they can mine, is that what the node registry is all about? So is that correct?
It's just to avoid that somebody add 1,000 nodes overnight, which will give them the possibility to perform an attack. But if only one node is accepted every few days or every few hours based on the dimension, the return proportional to the dimension of the current network. So if there are many nodes, you can add more. If they're very little, you can add little, right? Then until it has a large majority, you need to behave perfectly. So you need to contribute to the way that the network works. And in doing this, it's just supporting the network properly. And then the chance of attack remain everywhere very little. So the difference with the hashing power in a proof of work blockchain is that somebody overnight can set up the hugest mining operation in the world and start censorship or start rewriting the blockchain or rent it online, because hashing power can be rented very easily. In a proof of participation, this is not possible. In a proof of stake, there is no hashing power, but there is balance to having an account. So this makes the blockchain really rely on the cryptocurrency of the blockchain itself. But if you want to make a blockchain to manage medical record, you don't need a cryptocurrency, right? So you need the mechanics that keep the blockchain safe, even when there is no cryptocurrency. So the financial cost for an attack in a proof of work blockchain makes it so that the finance is an important aspect on the blockchain, because people need to compete for a reward that has a value. So you can apply this only on financial blockchain. So blockchain, they use cryptocurrency for their things. Proof of stake is based on financial, because stake the coins, so it can be used only on a blockchain that do cryptocurrency. But if you want to make a blockchain to do document processing, flow of, other things that are not financial, you need to have a blockchain that stay anyway secure, but there is decoupled from cryptocurrencies. Can do cryptocurrency as well, but it's just one of the services that you can do. It's not embedded as part of the security system. That's why proof of work and proof of stake are limited, while proof of participation is a winning solution. That's what is going to be as next step in this blockchain technology.
Yeah, I think to comment on the like how the proof of work and proof of stake cryptocurrencies work, I think it is fair to say that it is analogous to how retail traders work, right? Like they also consume lots of energy and electricity because they have to be involved in the speculation and then the rise and fall of the stock prices. Because yeah, there's money involved. There's something at stake in there. Is it fair to make that comparison?
I wouldn't really much do this comparison because, in effect, the blockchain can be for many users, doesn't have to be just financial. And doesn't matter if there is no transaction happening in a blockchain, you still need to create blocks. So you can have a case where Bitcoin, probably at the early days, had a lot of blocks that were empty with zero transaction inside. Anyway, giving out the reward, the Coinbase. And people still need to do mining there as well. If there is nothing happening, there is no. So it's to me just a wrong system. There's a lot of weaknesses that remain balancedly okay in huge things like Bitcoin just because it's a huge thing, right? But in fact, many people that defend proof of work so much that they tend to say there shouldn't be any other blockchain except Bitcoin, right? But that's too easy of an excuse. It's like there should be another train except this train that goes with charcoal, or this car that started with a spinner in front. Technology evolve is adopted for many use cases. There is the need of something better of what we have now. That's it.
Yeah. Okay, I think that's all which I want to ask regarding the energy consumption bit. Oh yeah, but then one more thing, because yeah, beyond just the financial sector, blockchain is also used to manage supply chain and uh, documents and certificate issuance, etc. And do you have a comment also on the intensity of the energy consumption in there?
But that's exactly the point. What's the point to have a proof of work for use cases that are not financial? It make everything fail. I think a consortium of hospitals they run a blockchain based on proof of work. You need to have inside the data center of the hospital a mining operation to be more powerful than the other hospital. It doesn't make any sense as much as if you have a consortium hospital using a proof of stake. What you do to make them equal, you divide the stake between all their accounts, but then they can actually sell out the coins to somebody else. What if a new hospital joined the consortium, so each other hospital should transfer some coin to the account of this? Doesn't make sense. It's just simply wrongly placed because this technology wasn't born to be the document or title management. It was born to be cryptocurrency. And now it's getting adopted as is for use cases that are not cryptocurrency, which is wrong. It's like taking a tractor and then you want to make a Formula One car, but you take the same engine of the tractor, you put it in the Formula One car. Maybe you can run around the circuit, but somebody that develop an engine for Formula One is going to leave you, in the dust. So that's exactly the thing. So technology need to evolve with DecBC. And before with UBC, we implemented this proof of participation is getting recognized is the way to go for blockchain. They don't run a cryptocurrency, as simple as that.
Yeah. So what my takeaway from this conversation is that the blockchain use or application should always be seen contextually, right? Like depending on their use cases. And then, like, secondly, now there are no new solutions which are being developed in order to match the needs of use cases beyond just the financial sector. Yeah, so there can be a match between the system, the solution, and the need
I think the
or the
NFT, the
use
NFT gave people the possibility to understand that there is something else to do beside the cryptocurrency, right? So NFT, but think about all the IoT devices, the smart city, and many other things that may need a platform like a blockchain, but don't run cryptocurrency. So if there is a device that detects traffic flow on a road, they need to register it for analysis later. You can deposit the data cryptographically signed on a blockchain without having to pay a fee, without having to earn a cryptocurrency, but just because that's the flow of how things work.
Yeah, that's all from me. Do you have anything else to add before we end this session?
No, I think we said we covered everything. If somebody listening to this is a developer, just Google ZBC, Google DecBC, and jumping on board and help out with the development, I guess.
Okay, so thank you, Roberto, and for our audience, thank you for joining us. And please stay tuned for our upcoming podcast episode. So see you again later. Bye.
Ciao.